Hi! As the creator of the beer-brewed brick, I have a natural interest in products that are comparable in terms of price and functionality. Thus, today we will look at the Inkbird ITC-308 Wi-Fi temperature controller. We will do that strongly from a homebrewer's perspective, so if you plan to use it to keep livestock such as fish or reptiles, some of the contents of this video might feel off-topic for you. We as homebrewers tend to care more about yeast and enzymes. This video will talk about how to set the Inkbird up, its core features. We will do a short test, how precisely the Inkbird is able to approach and hold a temperature. I will give you my personal pros and cons of using or not using the device, and we will conclude with a short summary. Sounds good? Let's get started. Setup and unboxing. The packaging itself is pretty compact. The temperature probe is already peeking into the outside and really wants to be used. Inside the box you will find a manual in multiple languages, a warranty card, and the device itself. The device comes with a dual socket for heating and cooling. The temperature probe is 40 millimeters in length and 5 millimeters in diameter, which is 1.7 inches in length and 0.2 inches in diameter. The cord length is 183 centimeters, which is equal to 72 inches. The QR code and the manual did not work for me. It resulted into a 404 error accompanied by some presumably Chinese characters. So to get started, I searched for Inkbird in the Play Store. Android same works presumably for the App Store on iOS. The fact that there are 3 apps for the same device are a bit confusing. We went for the Inkbird Pro app. This one had the highest rating, 3 stars among all 3. After the app is installed, you can turn on your device. There is no dedicated button to do so on the Inkbird. Simply plug in the Inkbird and the device will turn on. Notice how the Wi-Fi LED starts blinking rapidly. This is indicating that it's now possible to connect the app. Now it's time to open the app. Hit the plus button in the top right corner, select the ITC-308 and confirm that the indicator lamp is blinking rapidly. Then you have to provide the home or brewery Wi-Fi credentials, and then the connection is established. This works actually pretty fast. After the device was connected successfully, it shows up in the app displaying the current temperature. On the device itself, the successful connection is indicated by a continuously lit LED. Features. The Inkbird has a rich set of interesting features. Let's start with a dual display that shows the current process and the set or target temperature. Then there is the dual socket. You have one socket for heating and one socket for cooling. Both are very nicely labeled. Then there is a possibility to calibrate your device, so you can specify an offset that is added to every temperature reading on the fly. You can also set up alarms. This is handy if you want to make sure that your yeast is, for example, not killed by Arctic temperatures. The alarm will sound like this. Now let's talk about 3 typical use cases. The first one is setting the temperature. To do so, simply press set shortly, navigate to the desired temperature using the up and down arrow buttons, and press set again shortly, and there you go, the temperature is set. The second thing I want to talk about is changing the settings on the device. You can open the settings menu by holding the set key for 3 seconds. The first setting after the temperature set value is HD, which stands for heating differential value. It defines a dead zone where the heating socket is not turned on despite the process value being below the temperature set value. Same goes for CD, that's the cooling differential value, same thing, just the opposite direction. AH and AL are the alarm high and low values. Use these to set an alarm as I demonstrated. Setting the temperature on the device can take some time, since it's approximately 1 degree per second if you hold the key. So if you want to change a temperature from, let's say, 0 degrees or 32 degrees Fahrenheit to 60 degrees Celsius, which is 140 degrees Fahrenheit, that will take approximately 60 seconds. PT is the compressor delay. You can set a number of minutes. If the cooling socket is flagged for being turned on, this delay has to pass before the socket is actually turned on. Third, I want to show you the app, for example, how to set the temperature. After you've opened your device, simply tap the target temperature in the lower part of the screen and slide to the desired temperature. Hit complete once you're done. You can also view the historic temperatures using the Temp Trend Chart button. However, a data point is only recorded every 15 minutes. That's fine for fermentation, however, for mashing, more data points would have been nice. This table shows all data points that were recorded during our experiment. As you can see, there is 1 data point every 15 minutes. Test run. This is our testing device. It's a 25 liters mesh tun, as you could say. We simply plug that into the heating port of our Inkbird and install the temperature probe as we would when doing a regular mash. As you can see, we have an agitator in place. It's important to turn on the stirring to keep a homogeneous temperature inside the mash tun. And for scientific reasons, we also installed a second temperature probe. This is just to allow us to record the temperature readings at a higher rate to evaluate them afterwards. The experiment started with a water temperature of 22 degrees Celsius or 72 degrees Fahrenheit. The target temperature or process set temperature was set to 66 degrees or 151 degrees Fahrenheit. We skipped the first couple of minutes since it's pretty much boring. What I really wanted to see is how the Inkbird behaves when it's close or at the target temperature. Note the heating LED that is indicating the current state of the heating socket. Since the Inkbird turns off the heating relay just about when the target temperature is reached, the temperature unfortunately overshoots. We continued with the experiment for another couple of minutes, and the highest temperature was reached about 1.5 minutes after the target temperature was reached. The highest recorded temperature in our experiment was 67.8 degrees Celsius or 154 degrees Fahrenheit. This amounts to an overshoot of 1.8 degrees Celsius or 3 degrees Fahrenheit. The relay stayed off after the temperature was reached. Theoretically, and this is unfortunately not displayed in the plot, the relay would be turned on again as soon as the actual temperature would have fallen below the target temperature minus HD or the heating differential value. And this concludes our experiment. So, on to my personal pros and cons, and please take those with a grain of salt since I am the creator of the Beerbot Brick. The pros include that the device is very easy to set up. It has nice apps, for example the Inkbird Pro, that are just easy and fun to use. I also like that the Inkbird has two displays. It's great to see the current and the current target temperature at one glance. The max power of 2.3 kilowatts is sufficient for cooling, so any device like a cool chiller or freezer or a geyser will work just fine. I also like that the data can be exported and that the sensor supports calibration. Also, the ability to set alarms is great if you want to ensure that your yeast is not frozen or your mash is not overheated. What I didn't like so much is the simple logic that turns the relay off when the target temperature is reached, which is causing overshoots. I also had some connection issues with the app when I switched to a different Wi-Fi. The fact that it's not possible to program multiple target temperatures that are automatically followed after another is an indicator that this device is not tailored towards mashing. Also, the maximum supported power of 2.3 kilowatts is a limiting factor if you want to heat, for example during mashing. Also, the logging interval with its 15 minutes is pretty long. That's fine for fermentation, but again, for mashing, that's in my humble opinion not granular enough.
Summary. The Inkbird is a great device for fermentation, where you want to hold the same temperature for a longer period of time. However, during mashing, where chances are high that you want to change the temperature more often, the Inkbird is not the perfect candidate. Also, if you want to program rules like hold a certain temperature for a certain amount of time, the Inkbird will not be able to do that. In cases like this, it might be worth checking out a different device, like the Beerbot Brick. This concludes our short review video. If you liked it, please consider giving it a thumbs up or even subscribing to my tiny channel. In any case, thanks for watching, see you in the next one, and cheers!